You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I hope wherever you are in the world and whatever you're doing pretty bloody well. The guest you're about to hear from, his name is Phil Lewis, and he is the frontman of LA Guns. He is reunited with Tracii Guns. They've released an album. It is called, what's it called? The Missing Piece. Therefore, the tour is called The Missing Piece Tour. So they're touring Australia and New Zealand. Some quick dates I'll read out. Some quick dates, like the dates are quick. No, I'll read out the dates quickly. Gosh. On the 17th of May, they're playing Brizzy at the Woolly Mammoth. I'll probably be at that show. On the 18th, they're playing Melbourne at Max Watts. On the 19th, they're playing Sydney at Max Watts. On the 23rd, they're playing the Rosemount Hotel in Perth. On the 25th, they're playing Valhalla Tavern in Wellington. Finally, on the 26th, they are playing Galatos Live in Auckland. Let's cut to the chat with the man himself. Here he is, Mr. Phil Lewis. Phil, welcome to the show. Tell us about the show that you're bringing down to Australia, because we are certainly looking forward to LA Guns visiting.
Well, as I said, Tracii and I have never played in Australia before, so I think people are going to be really enjoy the show. What we're going to try and do, what we always try and do, is we play the songs that people want to hear. We're not like a self-indulgent band. Actually, we are. That's not true. But we'll play songs that you'll get your Sex Action, We're Never Enough, One More Reasons, all those. But you'll get stuff from this new record. We have a new record out. It came out in October. It's called The Missing Piece, and it's going down rather well. And I expect that we'll be playing several songs from this new record as well, due to public demand. And I said that we're not a self-indulgent band and we don't jam. That's not true, because we do. At the drop of a hat, we'll go into something. What we don't do is repetitive, boring solos. You don't get drum solos. You don't get bass solos. You're not going to get guitar solos. Because that is just dreadfully boring. But you will get jams. You'll get impromptu jams. Tracy's like that. He'll just pull it out the hat in the middle of a song, in the middle of a set, and next thing we're down one of his musical rabbit holes. And I love that. And punters, excuse my French, the fans.
No, that's okay. I call them punters as well. That's good. We're from the same background, mate, so it's all right. The same thing.
All right.
So the album title, now I think it alludes to something, mate, but can you tell the audience all about what the album title means of the recent album?
Well, it's called The Missing Piece, and it's spelled P-E-A-C-E, as opposed to Missing Piece, P-I-E-C-E. And it's a very clever title. It describes the reality between me and Tracii to a T. When we first started working together, we had a working title, and it was called Never Say Never, due to the fact that I'd actually said something like that, specifically something. I said that in an interview regarding whether Tracii and I would ever play again, and that was a good working title, but as the album developed, it just seemed a little cynical, to be honest. When we came up with the second title, The Missing Piece, it just seemed to work so much better visually, and we came up with a great concept on the artwork to match that title. And it's amazing, when you do things for the right reason, how things do actually fall into place. And that's precisely what's happened.
Okay, wonderful. Now I do need to ask this, mate. So what was the compelling event between yourself and Tracii that allowed you both to reunite?
That's a good question. It was the winter, the Christmas season of 2014, and I hadn't seen Tracii spoken to him in over 15 years. And I was in Vegas, he was in Vegas. There was an event taking place at one of the local clubs in Vegas to raise money for charity, Toys for Tots. And Tracii had agreed to do it. And the promoter, the guy putting on the event, called me and said, "Look, Tracii's still volunteered to do this event for a good cause. Would you be interested in getting up and helping with the event as well?" And I really couldn't think of a good reason why I shouldn't do it. I wasn't crazy about it, but I said, yeah, if it raises money and if it, yeah, sure. It was just going to be me getting up and singing a couple of songs with him in his band. He had Rudy Varzo playing with him at the time, and he had Shane, the drummer, we have in the band now. So yeah, it seemed like a good thing to do. And as I said, I hadn't seen him in years. We didn't rehearse, and we didn't even sound check, to be honest. I just showed up a little bit before the gig. And I went into the dressing room, and he's sitting there by himself, and he was drinking a glass of milk. Well, I thought it was milk. It was actually a White Russian. And there he was, and this was the guy that, I'd been my nemesis for so many years. And he just seemed he didn't seem threatening, and we didn't sit there and immediately wail into each other, "You asshole," and we just talked about, like daily events and what songs we were going to play that night. And next thing we know, we're on stage, and we're doing Over the Edge, and I haven't done Over the Edge with him in years, and somehow or other, it just sounds better than it's ever sounded to me. It just something about it, the way he's playing it, and there's just some kind of magic taking place, chemistry, if you will.
Yep.
And it wasn't that point where I said, "Oh, I have to do this," but it was certainly something that caught my attention. And then after the show, it was great to see you. And I told him I had an acoustic show the following week in LA. And would he be interested in coming up and, jamming a few songs with me? And he agreed to do it. And we did it. And I went over to his house the day of the show. And he said, "Hey, have a listen to this." And he started playing me some of his demos, some of his ideas for the new record. And I got to say, I mean, it was just like, it was really, really good stuff. And I just, after, not working with him, not knowing him for such a long time, it was amazing how his writing and his everything, his playing and his understanding of the structure of the song, how developed it had become, and how I really wanted to be part of it. And originally I was just going to do a couple of songs, but every song I heard was just getting more and more captivated by it. And I wasn't doing anything record-wise myself at the time, and I really wanted to get back in the studio. And it landed right on my lap, and it was a great opportunity. And we said, "All right, let's do this." At that point, it became a reunion.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Rightio. Yeah, I mean, look, it's a big thing, isn't it? I mean, I think you were certainly on the top 10 list of individuals that I think a lot of people had predicted we may never see another album from again. But I think I speak for myself and a lot of fans, mate. It's a wonderful thing that you were able to break bread. And do you think it's just a matter of a passage of time passing and time healing most wounds?
Well, yes, of course. Thank you for that. I didn't, in my wildest dreams, think that I was going to do another record with Tracii either. Time definitely helps, but he's different now. He's a lot nicer now. He was very frustrated when the shit went down between us 15 years ago. He wasn't in a good place. He was, and I understand that, and I take that into account. And then the fact that he's so much nicer now. He's so more empathetic, and it was just a little bit selfish back then, and he's he's had a kid. He's got an 8 or 9 year old kid, and anyone that has kids knows that all your so-called ideas of how much you may fancy yourself goes flying out the window as soon as you have a kid.
Oh, I do. I've got two, yeah, and I can I don't know what man wouldn't be changed after having a
yeah,
child. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's from Steven Tyler all the way down. Your kids don't give a fuck how famous you are, you know, and that has a grounding, leveling effect, and I think that had a lot to do with it, and just you know how he developed as an artist.
Hey, I'm going to take a right-hand turn here, if that's okay, because you have had an extraordinary career. You've worked with a lot of wonderful artists through your time. You worked with Phil Colleen from Def Leppard in Girl through the early 80s. Now, that was your band, I understand.
Yeah.
Would you guys ever entertain getting back together again?
No, it was... No. You know, it was a band called Girl, and it was our first record, She Agreed, came out in 1980 on Jet Records, who was that was a label that was owned by a guy called Don Arden, who actually is Sharon Osbourne's dad, Ozzy's wife, Ozzy's father-in-law. And he's a character. He's one of these old sort of music business notorious villains from the 50s and 60s. Hell of a character. And he signed my band, and we made a record. It was called She Agreed, and it came out around the same time as a movement in England called the New Wave of British Heavy Metal. And we never considered ourselves to be a heavy metal band. I mean, there were times when we did get heavy, but we weren't really like. We were thrust upon this audience that we couldn't really relate to, and they certainly couldn't relate to. We looked like trannies, you know, and that was it. You know, that was the big thing, and it was the same time. And in metal, everyone was really, you know, working class and denim and leather, and I'm up there in a pink satin suit. You know, they hated us. But that was my entrance into the music business, and Phil was in the band, and neither of us had done anything of merit before, but Girl was a great springboard for us both, for both of our careers. He was actually invited to join Iron Maiden twice,
right,
before he accepted the Def Leppard gig. He called me about the Def Leppard gig and said, "Look, should I do it?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." Here's the thing about Girl. You know, there are bands like Iron Maiden, like Def Leppard, that, from their conception, they were always designed and going to be epic bands that were going to put out fantastic, dozens of amazing albums, and just have a real life-changing history. It's going to change the whole perception of the genre. Big bands. I can consider voluminous. You know, like if it was a book, it would be a 3-book volume. Now, Girl would be a 1-page poem in comparison to these bands. It was never designed to be a long-term genre-changing thing. It was just having a laugh. We weren't very good. We didn't suck, you know. And it was 2 years from 1980 to 1982 when after Phil left. We did a couple of things without him, but it just wasn't the same without him in the band. And then we both moved on. He fucked off to Def Leppard, and I did some stuff in London, and eventually ended up in LA.
Yeah, now, here's another Aussie connection. A lot of people might not realise that you actually worked with Bernie Torm for a few albums as well in the mid-'80s. So what was it like working with him?
It was in that time, actually. That was when Phil first went off and did Def Leppard. I sat around for a bit, and I wasn't sure. I was, working on some songs, some ideas, and I got a call from Bernie, who I'd known, but I didn't really know that much about him. and he said that he was he'd got this great band, and it was a 3-piece band, and he was considering bringing in a singer because Bernie can sing. He's as good a frontman as anyone. And would I be interested? And so he made a cassette for me of his stuff, and it was amazing. It was really it was symphonic punk rock. It had a real trashy punk sound, but it was good. It was good players. Ian was an amazing drummer. Chris was an amazing bass player, and Bernie was an incredible guitar player. They just needed somebody to shout. They wanted somebody up front to wear some nice clothes and shout and dance around a bit. And we did a show, and it just set London on fire, man. It was just it was amazing how quickly the word got out, and every show that we played, it was just packed to the gills. We actually even opened. We did a show, one of the early Metallica shows in London.
Okay.
They played at the Lyceum, we did that, and we were really great. It was a great live band. We went in the studio. We made a really good record. Unfortunately, we couldn't get arrested by the English music companies, the music biz over there. They weren't interested in rock and roll. There was bands called Buck Fizz. They wanted Thompson Twins. They wanted this safe, sterile. They wanted family entertainment. And I swear, I do believe this to my core, that I don't think even the mighty Guns N' Roses, they would have had a really fucking hard time getting a record deal in London the same time me and Bernie were playing. It was different in America and LA because it's America and it's LA. But in London, provincial, narrow-minded, petty London at that time, we couldn't get arrested. So it was only a matter of time before we ended up getting quite frustrated by it, and I got the wanderlust, and I decided that LA was the place for me to go from that point.
You raise a few really interesting points there about the music industry in the 80s. So I think we've always come full circle. The wheel has turned, and it's come the full 360 degrees, in my view. So I was looking at the recent Lollapalooza lineup, and I've got to tell you, mate, there's no rock music on the Lollapalooza lineup at all in 2018.
I mean, I blame these awful television talent shows for the death of bands. There are no bands. There are no new bands. It's so rare to find a great new young band. When I was growing up in the 70s, late 70s, everybody, all my mates, were in a band. Everyone, it didn't matter if the band was, good or bad or was making money. It's just to be in a band, just to jam with your mates. Everyone could do it. Everyone, knew how to, play a few songs on a guitar, knew to play a little bit of drums. It was a prerequisite, and that's gone. That went with the smartphone. That's just changed everything, unfortunately.
It's pretty frustrating. I was reading on Twitter the bloke down here in Australia who used to organise, you've probably heard of the Soundwave Festival that used to bring down bands like Judas Priest, Metallica, and put them on the one stage in an open air festival.
Right.
Someone made a comment to him about a lot of these electro bands and the like, and he made a comment and said, rock is dead. It simply isn't selling. And look, I'm a bit player in the media here. Okay, I'm an indie journalist. Okay, I have a day job and I do this because I love it, and I'm a big fan of rock music. But look, I know that a lot of bands, when they come down here to Australia, they just break even. It's very hard to make money when you tour Australia. It's very hard. Well, it's not just Australia, sorry. It's almost anywhere at the moment, isn't it? Unless you're an established band with a history and some followers who have been following the band for a big period of time.
next to impossible to get something new off the ground. Absolutely, yeah. It's you're right. It's completely 360 from. It is exactly like that now. We're okay, you know. We're sort of I hate to say it, but you know, we got nostalgia going for us.
Yeah.
And we also we have quite a lot of young fans because they're curious, you know, and they reject the shit that they're being spoon fed. You know, you can see that they don't want no part of it. You know, they dress. I used to dress in the 80s, in the early 80s. You know, they got their hair different, and they're breaking away. And you know, that was what rock and roll was meant to be in the first place. You know, a little bit of a rebellion, and you know, it's okay. I mean, all these things they come in circles. And who knows, you know, maybe, but to say rock is dead, that's the most stupid, incendiary statement. It's something like that pompous cunt, Gene Simmons said that. You know, it's just clickbait, just to get people's attention and to get people's backs up. And it's an easy thing to say, but it's absolutely impossible to back up and substantiate. Certainly with somebody like me in the room, because, you know, rock and roll has been my whole life, and it's been good to me, and it continues to be good to me, and people like Gene Simmons, who also it's been fantastic to, need to show a little bit more respect.
Yeah, agreed on that point there. I know because he's been successful, it's easy to be on a ivory tower and make these grand statements, but when you're actually in the engine room trying to make it happen.
It's so easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, just trying to make himself look hip, and you know, it's an incendiary, stupid thing to say.
Hey, I'll make this my final question.
Pardon my French, by the way.
No, that's fine.
You can always bleep me.
Yeah, no, you can swear as much as you like. My show's not safe for work, so go ahead. Hey, I'll make this my final question.
Right.
So you've appeared on well over 20 official releases. So when you look back, of which album are you most proud?
Well, I'm very proud of this new one. I've gone into avenues musically that I haven't before. I'm real happy with the craftsmanship of the songs, but you know, I love them all. I love them all at the time. You know, there are some looking back in retrospect that you know, others I love more than certain other ones. I like the self-titled first LA Guns record, because it's got a vibe to it. It's raw. It's a little punk. It's a little, you know, like sort of New York Dolls television kind of. I'm not crazy the way it sounds sonically. It sounds tinny. Which is crazy because we recorded it in one of the most expensive studios in Los Angeles. There was Fleet Mac was literally next door when we were recording. So we had no excuse for it to sound like a punk rock record, but it does. And fortunately, that was just long enough ago that we get to the rights to get the original master tapes back. So Tracii and I are really looking forward to going in and remixing it and giving it a bit more balls. Cocked and Loaded was a really important record for me because the band LA Guns had existed prior to me joining in 88, and a lot of the songs on the first record were already, for the most part, in the band's repertoire. I may have came and changed lyrics and you know, put my bit to it, but Cocked and Loaded was the first album, was the first work where it was entirely from scratch. Okay. And it was me as a band member with the other guys, and that turned out fantastic. And also, actually, and finally, it sounds sonically, it was something that I was proud of, because it sounds really, really good. And the songs are good. The Hollywood Vampires record, is epic.
Yes.
It was, when we finally had, unlimited funds, and we'd stopped writing songs about sex, booze, and tattoos, and we'd gotten into other avenues, lyrically and musically, that I'm incredibly proud of, and very glossy record. And then after that was Vicious Circle, also another amazing record that I'm very proud of. But at that point, we knew the band. We knew the media had run out. It was over. The band had pretty much imploded. We knew that the label, the record company, were going to drop us right after the thing was released, and so basically it didn't matter how it sounded. We were doomed. But it still, to this day, sounds fantastic to me. There's a song on the opening song on Vicious Circle. It's called Face Down, and it's techno. I mean, it's got it was around the time 9 Inch Nails had come out, and it was our not an interpretation, but we were using
You're
the same
inspired
trick,
by it, yeah.
same resonance. We were using drum loops and samples, and it sounds fucking great. It sounds really, really good, all the way to the just bittersweet, beautiful kiss of death at the end of Vicious Circle, and knowing full well that was the last song that we did on the record, and that was the last song I did with LA Guns, and I knew that. And I knew that going in and doing that vocal on that song, that beautiful song. That was it. That was the end of it, and I didn't play with the band for 8 years after that.
Well, thanks so much for answering my questions. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. You're one of those blokes that I've been hoping that I'd get an opportunity to chat to you, mate, and it's more than lived up to my expectations. So thank you so much for making the music that you do and for being a true believer.
We are so excited about coming down and doing it right this time. And thank you so much for your support. And hopefully you'll come and say hi, right?
I will do. Yeah, I will, mate. And I'll introduce myself.
Yeah, I look forward to it. And cheers.
Well, that's it. That was my conversation with Phil Lewis of the band LA Guns. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and until next time, I hope you have a bloody good time. Cheers. Bye.